My name's Stephen Berry. I'm 36 years old from Lakewood, Ohio, and I'm a technician at Mini of Cleveland. Okay, so this summer, at the end of August, I'm going to be paddling from Put-in-Bay to Cleveland in an event that I'm calling Connecting Waters. And I came up with the idea because my wife and I got involved in a mission in Haiti called Christianville Foundation. And I wanted to think of a way that I could kind of merge my two interests together. So a lot of people around Cleveland have always talked about, paddling from Put-in-Bay to Cleveland would be really cool. So I figured this summer would be a good time to do it. And so the paddle I'm doing is to raise awareness for the organization. And so the main fundraiser that I'm having for it is a raffle, which is actually this weekend at the Blazing Paddles race. And we got a lot of great stuff. We got a nice board. We got Indians tickets, a night in a treehouse. So yeah, that's the whole thing. Okay, what do I paddle? So I have a 10.6 F1 Manawa. I have a SIC V1 Bullet, and I also have a Riviera 14 by 25 RP. Okay, so mainly I paddle on Lake Erie. I really like to get out on the waves, get the different conditions in, but if it's winter time and the lake freezes or like it's a super rough day, I'll either paddle on the Rocky River or the last resort is downtown on the Cuyahoga because it never freezes. Okay, so my favorite place to paddle, although I do like to paddle on Lake Erie, I'd have to say Barbados is the best place I've ever paddled, and that's definitely my favorite place. Okay, so a paddle story, we could call this story Rusty's Cove. So I think it was 2 years ago, and it was like late October, maybe early November, and me and my friends, Brian and Rusty, Phil and Chris, we all decided we're going to do this downwinder from Rocky River to Cleveland, which is about 6 miles. And we looked at the wind, and it was kind of a nice west, and that's what we want, but it was a little bit bigger than we had anticipated. So we get out of the river, and we try to, we make our right to go downtown, and it's like 4 to 6 feet. So it's pretty gnarly. The only one other time I've ever been out when it was that big on a downwind, the fire department tried to save me, so they didn't come this time, but it was a little chilly, so everybody was kind of geared up. It was like maybe mid-40s, but the water was still kind of warm. So we're kind of all paddling and, trying to catch some bumps, but we're mostly just kind of getting destroyed out there. But we're all keeping an eye on each other, and I see my friend, Rusty, he's kind of closer to shore, and he's just laying down on his board, like, face down. And I wave Brian down. I'm like, Brian, come on over here. What's going on with Rusty? And he's like, I don't know what he's doing over there. So we paddle over, and he's just blowing chunks on his board, just face first. And we're like, I was like, are you okay? And he's like, no, I'm fine. I'm totally fine. You guys go ahead. I'm going to be fine. And I was like, we're not leaving you here. We're definitely, we're going to get him out of here. So, and we haven't figured out yet, like, what the issue was. He might have been seasick. He might have had a little touch of the brown bottle flu. But, we had to get him off the lake, and it was cold. And so I had my inflatable at the time, and I jammed my paddle underneath, it was a red paddle, jammed my inflatable under, like, the stringer, and we put it across his board, and Brian was on the other side, and he was laying down. And so we were, like, on either side of his board, kind of like double outrigger, and we had to extract him off the water, and I carried his board up the hill, and he had to hop a fence, and he had to call his wife to come pick him up, and I think that was a pretty good story, but between those two, but that was a pretty good day, and we still talk about it. And that location where we took him off is always known as Rusty's Cove. So how I got into paddling was I didn't really think it looked that interesting. Like, I would go on my boat and see these people, and I would be like, oh man, what a loser that guy is. And my wife was like, no, it looks really fun, we should try it. So when we went on a trip to Barbados, we did like a half an hour lesson, and then we paddled. and I'm out there and I'm like, this is really nice. So we got back and I started renting some boards from a little shop down on the Rocky River. You could rent the boards and they weren't all that nice, but you could get out there. So for Christmas that year, my wife got me my first board, which was a 10-6, and I mean pretty much since then I've been paddling probably every day. As many days as I possibly can. If anything, the paddling community should know is, I mean, I don't see this too often, but I do sometimes see people go out without a leash and a PFD, and sometimes they have the PFD and it's on their board, and that's fine. But if you did fall off and you needed, to use it, on your board is not the best case. And also, it gets real windy, especially on Lake Erie, and if you lose your board and you're out there, you could have a long swim back. So leashes and paddles, or I mean leashes and PFDs is probably the thing. So the type of paddling I do is racing, downwinding, and stand-up surfing. So my hidden talent is I used to be a professional fly casting instructor back when I was about 22 years old. Uh, what people will say to me at my funeral probably is that he probably shouldn't have been out on Lake Erie in the wintertime when the waves were so big. That's probably what they'll be saying. Okay, this is a pretty good one, but almost nobody knows that probably about 12 years ago, a friend and I had kind of like a rap group, and we did some performances downtown. Uh, I'd just say definitely Seinfeld. That's my favorite show, for sure. The last photo I took on my phone was a screenshot, and it was for the poster that I'm getting made for the raffle on Saturday.